All right, man.
Tuna Vites, what is up? This is Reid, and this is Richard. Yes, and we're here in a new format, and always trying to get better for you Tuna Vites out there. Bring you quality content for this season, for our 19th season, and our first ever draft special. Richard, how do you feel about this?
I feel good. I'm ready. Not really. I'm not ready. I'm ready for my first pick.
Ready for your first pick. I'm sure you are. I'm sure. I know it's going to be hard today to actually, talk about other teams and other people, what they're going to do, because we really only care about our teams. But okay, we'll try.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah. And I do have to tell you, Richard.
Yet again, you have 2 picks in the first round, so what's new.
Well, we'll talk about that. Why do I have 2 picks? Because we'll talk about all the draft pick trades. Look at kind of our bold predictions on what we see for this draft, and also we're gonna look back at past drafts, or at least just bring up some of the past blunders of our draft history. And we'll save that. Yeah, we love you, Aaron. And we'll talk about that and look at some of the things, maybe some tendencies, look at the first and second rounds, some of our thoughts on it, and look at the teams as far as what we think maybe you guys are going to do in the draft. So this is a cool format, Richard, that you have. So why don't you tell the Tuna Vites about some of our capabilities, because I'm excited about it.
Oh, so I've been doing some research. As you probably saw on the last video, it was janky, to say the least, and uploading it to YouTube was actually a pain in the butt. Took me like 5 or 6 days to finally get it done, but I was able to get it done. But in the meantime, I was able to find this free service to be able to get both of our faces on pretty easy, have our names down there without any problems, which is great. And they can actually come up to 6 people. We can share screens, so it can be a full cool service. And actually, we're doing this as a live stream, an unlisted live stream, so no one actually sees this until I give you the link. So that's why the link is important, Daryl. And so, but yeah, so I'm hoping that maybe this is something we can do during the draft. I think we'll a little bit, maybe have a camera on the draft board or something like that. We can all get together and just interact. And people that can't join, they can maybe look back and see what the reactions were to picks, or what get in on the jokes a little bit better and that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that'll be great. And maybe I can ask Aaron to eat some cheese dip for me from PC. So I think it'll be. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. If people are up for it, I think it'll be fun. So maybe we can put out a poll or something, and we can figure it out and get it done.
Yeah, that'd be great, Richard. We were just talking before we started the show here that we did I think it was the Google Hangouts. We did the Google Hangouts some years ago, and I think we had most everybody kind of joined, and that was. I think when we didn't have a whole lot of people get together, but of course, a lot of us are all spread apart, and it's hard to get together anyways, because, some of us live in another country and other states. So it is hard, but yeah, it was fun when we did that some years back, and it would be cool to at least get some of you Tuna Vites together on this platform. And, just while we're doing the draft, it's always crazy. It's fun. Richard, I'm excited about this platform. I really think, this year we're going to push the fantasy footballers, okay, for popularity. I mean, it happened.
Yeah.
That's what we're striving for.
I wanted to note that this is it's a link only, so you don't need to download any software. You just need to be on the web and have a camera. So it's pretty cool. And then as far as the sharing screen, I'm just going to give a little taste of it. We're going to go a little Inception here for a quick moment, but here we go. Watch. So now you can see my screen. I can kind of scroll in and out. So it's pretty neat. So I can pull up the draft room and that kind of thing. So it's going to be pretty sweet, I think.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about. And, we had to start somewhere. And so, now it's cool. We're trying to step it up. And, Daryl, we've got got video now, and so our goal is to make sure our episodes are always at least an hour long for quality content purposes.
Of course. I mean, who doesn't want to look at us for an hour?
Of course.
Both of us.
I mean, I know they would. All right, Richard. Well,
we'll keep Captain Insano appearances to 30 minutes, though.
I know he could go for a long time, and sometimes he gets a little bit out of hand. And so he did give us a teaser, a little teaser trailer, Richard, that he's coming back. It's a new season, and so we'll have to have him back on. So, all right, Richard. Well, this is our draft special. So, kind of our draft preview, and we are just 4 days away from our 19th annual fantasy football draft for our league, which is crazy and hard to believe. It's going to be 8:30, so on Sunday, and so we're gonna look a little bit at it, and then kind of talk about what we expect and look back a little bit on our past. So, Richard, I did some digging. I did some research. Okay, so I don't know if you Tunavites know, and maybe you just don't ever look at it because I get it. We're all busy and sometimes you just forget. But we actually have a history record book, okay, that we can go back and not only look at our past champions, we can look at past drafts and looked at past seasons, divisions. It's pretty cool, actually. So I went all the way back. Now, CBS did not give us the option of keeping records until 2005. So not quite back to where we started, with the league, but, very far. So I went back and I'm just going to go through. I thought this was fun just for the Tunavites. If we go back to 2005, okay, in the draft, first round, and I'm just going to go through these names really quick, Richard, because it's just funny when you go look back and just go, wow, and think of the players. So I'm going to go down the list. Peyton Manning, LaDainian Tomlinson, Willis McGahee, Sean Alexander, Priest Holmes, Dante Culpepper, Edgerrin James, Dominique Davis, if anybody can remember him, Donovan McNabb, Deuce McAllister, Clinton Portis, and Trent Green. So that was the first round of 2005, and it's just crazy to to read all those names and go, wow, those guys. I mean, they were awesome Hall of Fame players, and just the fact that was wow, a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't have really full data on this, but I remember looking last year or this year or year before, a couple years in a row, where I've looked at what became the first rounders for the past few years, and it's surprisingly there's not that many solid picks that ended up being what they were drafted. So it's like first round is kind of is a little scary too, just because you look at last year, for instance, or 2 years ago, for instance, you look at that list and you're just like, yeah, they did not pan out to be as great as you hoped, So I'd be interested to kind of do a little bit more data as far as seeing how they ended up versus how they got picked. Now, granted, it's 3 keepers each team, and then obviously some good players still within that first round that we get to pick.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I like features, and Tunavites, if you don't ever go back and look at just even like, you should just go look at last year's draft or 2 years ago. And then CBS started doing this. So not only do we get to see what the picks were, but then they'll show, if you look to the right of their name, it shows, the points that they actually got, total points, and then the points that they got for when you started them in your lineup. And I think that's a cool feature because it doesn't take long. So if you just want to look at it and say, hey, who last year in the first round actually paid off, who actually was really good, and who was bust. And Richard, as you're saying, and more often than not, there's more busts than there are guys who actually do really good.
Yeah. So
I did have some fun other things to look at. That was just kind of funny when I looked all the way back. I'm like, I'm going to start 2005 as far as we can go back. And so I saw that. That was actually a great first round. I mean, mostly from those players.
Sounds great.
That was great. So I'm going to go through some blunders, Richard, and I'm not going to necessarily go through all the years because there's a lot. And I think most of our Tunavites will remember these draft day blunders.
Mhm.
I call them draft day blunders, or we could call them draft day bloopers, maybe a little bit of both. But I'm going to go back even further than that and talk about one of our first drafts that we ever did. And it was done at none other than the church office. And I can remember sitting there doing our draft, and Donald disappeared, and he drafted. And we were like, "Where's Donald?" And Donald was in the bathroom drafting. And that was that was a great time. We'd never seen that before, and Donald thought it was great. We're
Was
like,
it a
"Hey,
crappy pick?
yeah. I mean, hey, at least he was focused and he did his draft pick." And so I think that's more of a blooper, more just funny. But of course, we remember that. And then some of the bad. I'm going to be equal in dishing this out. But I looked back when I went to 2006. I apparently had the first pick in the entire draft. And I took a guy by the name of Lamont Jordan, if anybody remembers that guy, a running back. And you probably don't remember him because he was a colossal bust and pretty forgetful. That was pretty bad. And actually, when I looked, I was like, "Oh yeah," I was like, he played for the Raiders when they were really bad. And so that was one and he was a first pick overall. So that was terrible. That was a terrible bust. And I don't think I was very good that year.
Or the year prior, you had the first pick.
Yeah. I think I was still bad the next year because that was a really, really bad pick. And but some other notes, some other draft picks. There's one other one, Richard, that I forgot that was, again, not part of our record book. And I'm not going to let him get away with it. But there was a year that Jonathan decided to draft 2 punters when we didn't even have that position. And he was feeling great about it. And I mean, I was kind of like, "Jonathan, why are you drafting 2 punters? We don't even have that position." And he was pretty upset about it. I'm not sure why, but he was upset. So yeah, Jonathan, that was bad. Those were bad picks.
I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah, I don't either. So I'm going to keep scrolling here, Richard. And we, of course, cannot forget Aaron. Aaron loves this one. But there was the infamous first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills defense. And that was pretty bold. That was really, really bold. And
he really wanted to.
Yeah, we can never forget about that. And that was very good. Or I'd like to highlight the fact of the one year that Josh decided to draft 4 quarterbacks. And I don't know. I think he really liked that position, maybe a lot. And so he decided to draft 4 quarterbacks. So that's going to be one of our predictions, Richard, is how many quarterbacks is Josh going to draft this year? Because I think that's something that we need to look out for, because Josh does love the quarterback position. Yeah. And so we do need to look out for that. And so what are some other draft blunders that you can remember or recall?
I can only remember my own. I can remember the first. I don't know if you remember, but the first season that we did was a auto draft. So it was like done overnight. It was done on a Saturday night. Everybody came to church the next morning, and we were all kind of comparing who we got. And I remember my first pick was a wide receiver in season before the draft happened, and I didn't realize what was happening, and I drafted an injured player that was on IR. That's my memory for a blunder of my own. Wow. I remember. I know this year we're gonna have John Mack with his patented mini Eagles as it is every year. Not that that's a blunder, because championship season, that was a good season to be an Eagle fan and draft Eagles. So I can't fault him for that one season. I think it's fun to pick on him about that. But I can't think of any other ones. Was there any other ones other than the punters?
Well, we've had some in the past. There was a couple seasons ago. I know that Bruce, had already gotten a starting quarterback, and then he went like quarterback again at some later time in the draft, and we were all kind of scratching our head. And I don't know. He blamed it on CBS. He said it wasn't him. It was CBS. So I don't know. And then I do have to mention this, Richard. and I forgot about this. Josh loves the quarterback position so much that you remember the year that we're like at the end of the draft and it's pretty much like everybody's ready to go to bed. We're done. And then Josh comes out of nowhere and drafts Tim Tebow after Tim Tebow's already been out of the league. And he like put him in there as a custom option. And so I don't know. It was a little bit, the love affair was a little bit too much.
It's a little bit too strong.
Yeah, it was a little bit too strong. And it ended very quickly because he dropped him pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, those were some of those. I mean, we've had some things happen that have been funny in the past. I know Tuna Bites, if you can remember, and this was, man, a lot of us hated this, but when we would do the draft over a long period of time, and it basically meant like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, it was like 2 to 3 weeks, and it was all right. So you get you're waiting for your draft pick, and you'd be checking in, and it's like, well, maybe I'll draft tomorrow, because it would take some people. They had like a long time, and that was that one. I mean, we made it work because that's just what we needed to do, but that definitely led to some unfair, I would say, advantages in the sense of just timing, because a player would get hurt and somebody else, and you're like sitting there, oh, it's my turn to draft. Now I can draft this backup or, whatever. So that was a crazy time. I'm glad we're not doing that anymore. And that was, I think everybody got kind of annoyed. I remember we'd have to text people and be like, hey, it's your pick. Hopefully this draft's going to end in, however many weeks. And so we had that, and we've had, some other things happen. We had a trade. I remember back a couple, maybe four years ago, I think maybe it was, and 3 or 4 years ago, that during our draft, Jonathan and Josh made a trade. We had to we held up the draft, and then they made like sort of swap, and that was pretty good. That was pretty entertaining, just because that normally doesn't happen, and the draft usually goes fairly smoothly. And there's a couple times we have to stop the draft, but we've gotten pretty good about it. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so those are just some fun things. I'm sure there's many other things we could pick out. The one thing, Richard, that I did find going back in the drafts is that I tend to find and go, man, what in the world? Like, you look at some of these guys you drafted, and at the time they were probably like, oh, they're going to be these great guys and great players. And I'm like looking at it and going, man, I had some terrible drafts. I was like looking at it and I was like, oh gosh, I'm like, these were terrible picks. And I think that's, I don't know. What do you think? I tend to, if I remember any kind of draft picks or I look back, I always tend to remember like the really bad ones that I made, more probably so than the really good ones I made. But what about you?
I feel like last year was a really good draft for me. And it turned out terribly in the end, but I don't know. Like I said before, it was like I remember the first round, just looking at historical data, just being a lot of busts, and it wasn't until like the second or third round where those were the gems that a lot of people had, and really not even until the third or even fourth round is when people had some serious gems, because I guess because of the the uncertainty, but if you hit it right, then you're good. So that's what I don't know. That's what it's kind of perked my interest as far as the history of it, and what.
Yeah, one of the things I really I love about our league is that it is. The draft is so incredibly unpredictable. I mean, we could sit there and say, we'll have drafts, but I mean, ours, just when I think like, okay, this is how the draft's going to go for the most part, or this is how some people is going to draft this guy or that guy, it always ends up there's a surprise. And,
well, yeah, like what you last year drafting 5 running backs or something like that. like Reid, you do got to get a wide receiver, bro. Or what if it was wide receivers and no running backs? It was something like that. It's like eventually you got to get one.
No, I've tried out some. I've been bold some years and tried out some pretty crazy strategies, and a lot of years they haven't worked, and they've been fun to try them. One thing that it is pretty consistent with most leagues and even our league is that the running backs do go pretty quickly. I mean, as far as the really good ones, and we're kind of going to transition into that. The first and second round typically is mostly running back and receivers. Richard, how many between the first 2 rounds? Let's just do this between the first 2 rounds. How many running backs do you think are going to be drafted?
So
if you had to just take a stab at it.
If I had to take a stab at it, I mean, a lot of people kept running back. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to say 8 to 10 is my. I'm not going to do an exact number, but I'll say 8 to 10 is my guess. Okay. And just looking at my list, I would say that sounds about right.
Okay. No, that's probably where it'll be when we get to the draft. You know, there were two teams that come to mind that did not keep running backs, and that is John Mack and that is Darrell. You know, with their keepers. So, you know, if you kind of look at that, I mean, you can look at teams and their needs, and that's part of drafting. You know, you're kind of trying to see, okay, who needs what, and so they're obviously going to need running backs. My guess would be is that we're going to have 10 to 12 is what I'm guessing between the first 2 rounds. If I had to put out, I mean, receivers, there's going to be a lot of receivers taken as well. But then interestingly enough, every year we have, you know, a quarterback, you know, depending on the quarterbacks that are available, there's tight ends. Sometimes, I mean, those 2 rounds, you'll see some of those. If you had to guess, Richard, in the first round, because typically the first round is pretty much, and I went back, it was mostly running backs, receivers. Occasionally we've had a tight end, we've had a quarterback, you know, it just depends on who the player was in the year. But if you had to take a pick between a tight end or quarterback being drafted in the first round, which one would you side with for this year?
I think it's going to be quarterback. If somebody does, it's going to be quarterback. That's my opinion.
I would agree with that. There's some really good quarterbacks that are back in the pool, and there's a lot of people that are high on them. And that's always going to be when does that break? You know, we're going to have a lot of running backs and receivers, but then when does like kind of that group, and there's a top tier group of quarterbacks that are available. So when are they going to be drafted? You know, there's a little bit of a game with that. And of course you're like anybody, you're thinking about, okay, is that guy going to be available the next round if I really want him? You know, it just depends on your strategy and what you're doing. And you kind of alluded to that. I've had some pretty crazy strategies in years past. Typically, going the more balanced approach on your roster typically is the best way to go, just because it leaves you open to, you know, if there's some guy you didn't think was going to be there later, you can get him. But, you know, again, the great thing about our league is it's so unpredictable, and everybody has a different kind of strategy and approach to what they're doing. And there's guys that, you know, we love, which you have 3 that you put as your top 3, which I'm going to ask you again before we end who that was. It's changed at all.
Sure.
But, you know, the draft, the other thing, too, that we don't ever really talk about it too much. Of course, we didn't have the show before, but, you know, I think a lot of people probably draft strategy, you know, it changes. It's fluid when you're going in the draft, and you're, you know, there always ends up being a run on a position. And sometimes you get left there going, well, do I want it to be the end of this run, or do I want to go to another position? Or, you know, and then, you know, sometimes you take gambles and you take risks, and then, okay, it's not work. You're in the middle of the draft. You're like, okay, this didn't really work out, so I'm going to kind of pivot and go a different direction. You know, so I think last year, like when I drafted, and other than Lamar Jackson, really my draft really wasn't worth a whole lot. You know, I just quickly went back through that. But I remember through that draft, there was a lot of guys that I, of course, missed out on. And so I don't know. It just kind of last year I just kind of kept changing. Okay, I'm going to go this route. So it kind of changed a lot. I mean, I've had other years where, you know, it went more like I kind of planned or thought, but most years, I think for everybody, it does change a little bit as you're drafting.
Yeah. To go back on your quarterback, I think as far as we're talking about the quarterbacks, I think the quarterbacks are very strong this year. I think you did a new thing this year, which is keep a quarterback. I don't know if you've ever kept a quarterback yourself.
I broke my rule, Richard. I broke my rule.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's, but I mean, it's a special player. You know, it's. I understand Patrick Mahomes, and then Lamar Jackson. You know, I expected those to be kept. There's no way that they were going to not be kept, and I completely understand that. There's definitely a quarterback. Place that if it's there, if those high end quarterback is there, I know when I'm going to pick it. I know that draft pick, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be at least 2, maybe even 3 quarterbacks going in the first 3 rounds, to be honest, or first 2 rounds. Excuse me.
I agree with that. I don't know if we'll get 3 in the first 2, but definitely we'll have 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks first 3 rounds. But we'll have at least 2 quarterbacks. I think will be gone in the first 2 rounds, maybe 3, because there are 3 quarterbacks that I'm thinking of that I think are going to be gone. But I'm not going to throw everything out to everybody, because I don't want to just bring highlight attention to certain players. Not that I have a quarterback, so it really doesn't matter. But I think
you up.
Yeah. No, Richard, you did bring up a thing. I did break my rule. I think this is probably the first. Maybe I had one of the year, but pretty much probably the first year I've ever kept a quarterback. And that was a tough decision. And like you said, him and Mahomes were special quarterbacks. So it is. Yeah, that is an interesting thing. I'm usually the guy that goes later rounds for a quarterback, unless there's a guy I really like, which, like I said, this year, there's some guys that I like. If I didn't have Lamar Jackson, there's some quarterbacks that I'd be targeting, earlier than maybe I would in other years, just because I think their upside is huge. And, so I don't know. I'm excited about it because our league typically likes values the quarterback position a little bit more, I think, than even other leagues that I've been a part of. And this year,
has 2.
Usually everybody at least has 2. And a lot of times people have 3. And if you're Josh, one year you have 4 because they just drop like flies.
Why not?
Why not have 4 quarterbacks? No. So I think we're the quarterbacks that are available are really good. So I'm really intrigued to see how they get drafted and where, and that's going to be a decision that the owners that are looking for them, they're going to have to make that decision. So,
it's a deep pool too. I feel like there's, obviously there's top tier, but I feel like there's a lot that are close together, the same caliber, same fantasy football point wise, could be very close to each other, to where I think it's going to be interesting in what people decide and whether or not they listen to this video, and if they agree or disagree with us. But it'd be interesting.
Well, and there's also, I'll highlight another thing, Richard, as we're looking for the draft this Sunday. There's a lot of guys that, receivers and running backs specifically, that last year were like first and second round draft picks overall, and now they've fallen. They were injured, they had a bad season, some guys got traded, and so now they're here. So it's really intriguing this year to see how many there are. There's a lot. We're talking David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Juju, Odell Beckham, James Conner. There's guys that were first and second rounders, and now they've fallen because their team or injuries. And so I don't know. I'm intrigued to see where those guys go. And of course, obviously we'll be looking to see which one of those guys will actually, will bounce back this year. So that's just something I saw that kind of just stuck out to me for going into this year.
Yeah. I'm just looking at last year's first round. The first draft pick was by John Mack for Kerryon Johnson, and that didn't work out. And then you got Brandon Cooks is that 3rd overall.
Sorry.
Let's see what else.
AJ Green. I took AJ Green. What did he do?
A good one. It was. I guess he was okay, to be honest. But yeah, AJ Green needed nothing. Congratulations for your win last season. So that goes to show you that first round doesn't mean nothing. But it also means that you're the Patriots of our league, because I was looking at the history, and every other year for the past 6 years, you've won.
Richard, well, I'm glad you decided to point that out. I didn't bring it up too much, so
this is a plea to the rest of the league: stop helping Reid.
Since you brought it up, Richard, I'll bring out the hardware. Okay, this is what you're fighting for, Tuna Bites.
Shown in its proud glory.
Hey, you got to actually, Richard. The way that things work, what's that?
I'm saying I'd stop helping Reid. He's got 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. Don't. That means nobody's going to trade with me now, Richard. They're going to be like, I don't want to trade with you.
No, I'll still trade with you, bro.
I hope so. Listen, I make bad trades. Okay, some trades are great, some are bad. I tell people like I make some really bad trades, and then I make some really good ones. It just to me, it's like it's just kind of evens itself out. I just like to trade. So
yeah.
Well, Richard, I'll pivot off of that. I won't talk about. I don't want our Tuna Bites to like tune out and be like I'm done. But I will bring it draft night. I'll bring it out. Okay, we'll see it just like we do, just like PC did last year. I'll bring it out. All right, Richard. Well, let's look at. Actually, I didn't ask you this. So actually, I think this is really fun. First round. What do you think as far as running backs and receivers? How many do you think for each position in the first round? If you had to just kind of looking at our draft board.
For running backs.
Yeah. How many? Yeah.
11.
Whew, 11. Okay, I like it. Yeah. It's pretty consistently. It goes that way. I will say this about our running backs that are available. There's a lot of. There's a lot of question marks with running backs, like I just alluded to before, at the injuries and bad seasons. But there's some really good running backs. A good amount of running backs that are good that could be really great this year. Some had good seasons last year or 2 years ago that are available, and even receivers. I think the receiver position to me, I think is really deep position, and I think part of that is we had there's some really great rookie receivers last year that are, of course, going into this year. So that to me is a position that is pretty deep. Now, of course, there's not as many elite, like top tier receivers, I think, as maybe we've had in years past because of teams just spreading the ball around. But there's a lot of great receivers that are going to be out there. So
yeah, I agree. There's a lot. I'm looking at the list and I'm excited. I'm excited for the draft because I'm eyeing a few of them for sure and hoping I can get them. So we'll see how it goes. I need you guys to not draft all the wide receivers in between my picks. So
I know. Oh, speaking of picks, Richard, we were going to talk about. We're going to just recap real quick with Tuna Bites some of the trades and the draft picks and why certain teams are where they're at. Because sometimes we make trades during the season and people forget. They go to the draft. They're like, wait, why do they have these picks or those picks? And so let's recap some of those real quick.
Yeah, let me share the screen and show the first round.
Okay, so the biggest one, Richard, that sticks out, how can anybody forget when Jonathan sold the farm and to Donald for CMC, and that was Jonathan's push to go for glory, and it didn't work out, but of course he still has McCaffrey. But Donald has a lot of picks within the first 3 rounds. I think maybe the most I've ever seen.
Draft.
Yeah. He's gonna be like by the time we get to the 4th round, he's already gonna be like on reserves. And Donald might be done, early. He might just pack it in, after the draft and say, "See you later, guys." But yeah, no, that one, a lot of picks for Donald. For Jonathan, now Jonathan was able to make that trade with Donald, and they did Amari Cooper for, I think it was a couple picks, but the one was Jonathan is in the very beginning of the 3rd round. So at least Jonathan gets a little bit closer and is not as far from his first pick. But that's going to be interesting. Jonathan, is going to be sitting for a while.
Back.
Yeah. Jonathan is he'll be waiting, I think, with we look at the third round, and so he's going to be seeing the first 24 picks, and so he has some double picks going up in the other rounds, so he'll be able to. Looks like we lost Richard, but I'll keep going here. Tuna Bites. Hopefully he'll come back in. We have had so he's going to have to wait. See, since we're all Richard's computer, it looks like it died. So hopefully not for good, and he'll be back. I hope he will. So, but no, Jonathan has, he's got to wait a while. So I think that's going to be interesting as we're looking at that. Aaron, I have 2 first-round picks. Aaron and I made a big trade before the trade deadline last year, and so we swapped first and second rounders. And so I have 2 picks. So Aaron will be waiting for the second round. So that's going to be one of those things that he's gonna have to, again, those 2 guys are waiting, and I've done that before in years past. But so hold on, Tuna Bites. We lost Richard real quick here. Oh, the fun things about about this. We thought we were going to go without a hitch here. Oh, there he is. Hey, Richard, welcome back.
I could do all this So I lost you when we were talking about the first round and Jonathan.
Yeah, and I was kind of trying to do my best to stall, but I wasn't doing a good job at it. So probably two devices be like, Reid, okay, keep it going. Yeah, no. So Jonathan, I was just talking about how he's going to have to wait until the beginning of the third round, and so he'll, that's one of the things when you trade those picks. I think it's cool because you can kind of take the gamble, when you're looking at trying to make the push for the championship. But then, of course, when you get to the next season in your draft, you have to really kind of look at and think about, okay, what am I going to do and what players will be drafted? And so for Jonathan, having to wait till the beginning of the third. And then Aaron, I have 2 first-round picks from Aaron, and we swapped first and second last year before the deadline. We did a big trade. And so Aaron's going to have to wait till the second round. And so, for both of them, they're – and just looking at their rosters, they both are going to only have 1 running back. Jonathan has a tight end receiver, and Aaron has 2 receivers he kept as well. So, they'll be, really kind of watching and then just going, doing the best they can with what's there. And but then they'll come back around and have extra picks. And so those are some of the trades. I know that Richard, you and Aaron swapped picks, right? You did a trade.
We did a trade. I got his third, and I can't remember what he got. Let me look. Because the one I'm missing, I think it was 6th. He got my 6th. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got my 6th round. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. You're still with us.
Okay.
Don't worry, Daryl. You can just fast forward if you want, through this part. Yeah, there was. I did a little trade with John Mack. It was really not much. It was kind of draft picks. So there wasn't. I mean, I think those were really the main ones. So that's kind of where we're at. With the draft picks. So that will factor in because if you look at, for Donald has 2 first rounders, I have 2 first rounders. So when you're looking at, how many running backs, how many receivers, everybody's strategy. That's something to kind of watch for a draft and just how it unfolds. But that always affects everything because it's not just like everyone has their picks. If you make those trades, that can always be interesting to see. I particularly like, you mentioned, Richard, at the beginning about first round busts, and that happens most of the time. But the middle rounds, so like the rounds of like basically round 4 through, round 8 are always interesting to me because if you go back and look, there's a lot of guys that end up being breakouts that you can get in those later rounds. Yeah. So I don't necessarily stress as much about like, yeah, I might miss out on a guy I wanted within the first 3 rounds, but there are so many guys that you can hit on in those middle rounds that, help you win your league or help you win your division or whatever. So,
yeah, no, to be honest, I was actually shopping around at the beginning before the keeper deadline. I was actually shopping my first round a little bit, just poking at a couple people, seeing what they thought, and offering my first round. Not because it's not valuable, it absolutely is, but my attitude about first round has changed a little bit to where Before I held on to it pretty hard. I didn't want to give up my first round and felt like I was getting at a disadvantage. But this year I was like, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to see if I can just be patient instead and see what happens with my first round. And so it didn't work out as far as what I wanted to do with it. But yeah, exactly. Just to follow up with what you're saying. Yeah, it's not a deal breaker the first round as we've seen historically, even if the last year itself with you winning the league with Green being your first pick.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this season. I think everybody kind of understands all that, and everybody doesn't get too crazy, but it's just fun to talk about anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, and this year too, Richard, I think for everybody, we sometimes have a tendency, not all of us, I'm not going to call names, but some people like to just, the last like 3 or 4 rounds go on auto pick and just be like, hey, see you later. But honestly, with coronavirus and this year being so unpredictable with that, not just the injuries, I really think it's going to be imperative for everybody to really get, draft your depth. In other words, even if they're guys you're like, oh, I don't really know, but, they're in a good team, they're maybe in a good position, there's a player there, is a sleeper, whatever. You need to look for those guys because, this season could be changing a lot more, from week to week, not just because of the general injuries, but with the COVID. So I think it's going to be important for everybody to make sure you really, do the best you can for your depth. I would anticipate that free agent bidding and just the waiver wire is going to be really busy this year and maybe more than normal. And so that's going to be, that's another big part. We always talk about the draft, but of course that's just the start. I mean, you have your keepers for us and then our draft, but that's only just part of the whole deal. I mean, that's, nobody ever wins our league because they just had the greatest draft. I mean, everybody always picks up somebody or have something else happen that kind of helps them along the way. So Richard, let's quickly go through the teams and kind of what we think each team's going to maybe draft in the first round, excluding us. So,
well, I don't want to force their hand, but
yes, we do.
Well, I mean, do you want to go? How do you want to do it? You just want to go from top to bottom here? That's shown on the screen with you first, or do you want to save you and I last and then go top to bottom?
Well, I mean, Richard, preferably, I don't really want to give up my, what I'm going to try to do and my strategy.
Well, I can tell you what I think you're going to do.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. Let's do that. We'll do it that way.
I think you're going to get 2 more quarterbacks just to be safe and really screw up everybody else. I can see it. You're going to screw everybody up.
Richard, I won't blame our guy with quarterbacks, but that could be pretty fun. I mean, I don't know if the rest of my team would really be great because I'd be having all these, positions that I don't have need. But
we just said the first round doesn't matter, Reid. Come on.
That's true. That's true. And just to mess with everybody, that would be fun. That could be a little bit too much fun.
Do it.
Okay. All right, Richard, coming out with 2 quarterbacks. All right, let's see. Who's next? Josh. Okay, all lives matter. All right, Josh. All right, so Deshaun Watson, Zeke, and Thielen. Who do I think he's going to go? I mean, I think it's going to be running back. I do. I mean, I could see him maybe going receiver, but I think he's going to go running back. So in the first round. So that's my. I mean, again. Josh does love the quarterback. Maybe Josh is thinking, you know what, I'm going to take one of those quarterbacks in the first round. I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I think he's going to go running back. So that would be mine.
Winston lost his best receiver, so there's an argument to be made.
All right, Captain Insano's Bash Brigade. Okay, his name was so long that it doesn't even go across our divisions. It just like cuts off. It's like, come on, Nathan.
Come on, Nathan. Yeah, Nathan, I think it's the easy one to pick is wide receiver. Not necessarily it's easy to pick a wide receiver, but that's what jumps off the screen is that's what he's missing between the core, between running back and wide receiver. He could go quarterback, but I'm going to go with wide receiver. He's going to go chalk. as the kids say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it would be knowing Nathan typically doesn't go quarterback early like that. So I would be surprised if he does. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise us all, but I don't think he's going to go that route. But
Many a draft with over the last years. Him and I were the last two to get quarterbacks. So
yes. Yeah. I don't anticipate him. All right. Jonathan is next. So here's the thing Jonathan has going for him. That's really good. He's got three of the best keepers, I think, overall. So even though he just has to wait a long time, at least he's got great keepers. He's got McCaffrey, Godwin, and Kittle. And so knowing that he's not going to be picking till the very beginning of the third round, I think it's going to be, of course, a running back or receiver. What's that, Richard?
I was just going to say, I think it's going to be wide receiver just because that's what's going to be available, to be honest.
Yeah. Jonathan, if you look in past drafts, there have been some years where he's gone, heavier on the receiver. And then I think there was one year where he drafted like 7 running backs and he had great receivers and then he just loaded up on running backs or something like that. But I would, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes receiver. It would not surprise me for him to go receiver. I say he'll go receiver unless there's just a running back that has just fallen that that is there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because here's the thing with Jonathan, he's going to start having double picks. He's going to hit 4th round, 5th round. I mean, he has those rounds. He's going to start catching up. So Jonathan really, he's if there's a great receiver, he's going to take a great receiver and he'll come back around and he can get, running back another position. So, I agree. I think he'll go receiver. That's going to be interesting, though. I really am intrigued with Jonathan, what he's going to do with that first pick. He's got to wait 2 rounds. So, hey, Richard. Okay, so I guess I got to do this for you. So you have Mixon, Sanders, and Woods. And you kind of gave us your top 3. So you basically said it's going to be a running back or a receiver, unless you're totally misleading us all. And
I'll say them again. It's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or it's going to be DJ Moore, or it's going to be Kenyon Drake. And the question now is, and this can go towards the 2 people in front of me, is which one of those do you think is that I'm going to end up with?
Okay, well, my prediction, Richard, is that you're going to end up with DJ Moore. That's my prediction. So
that's my prediction too.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, Daryl has no running back, so I mean, if he goes, he could go a different route, but I almost surely think he'll go running back. And Donald could go either way, but usually running backs are like on the top. I mean, almost every year running back is the first.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you froze. There you go.
There we go. With PC, Highland Celts.
Man, he likes that Travis Kelce. I keep trying to take him off his hands, and he won't do it. He can go a lot of different ways. He's second to last pick in the draft after you picking twice, or picking in front of him and then again behind him. He could really go either way. I think it's going to be however the draft comes to him. But let me look. I'm going to say running back. I'm going to say he's going to pick running back.
I agree running back. If you go back and look at last year, one of the reasons he had such a great team was he got receivers later in the draft. He did really well with that. And I think he'll probably go running back here, especially because I think there's going to be a lot of running backs taken already in the first round. And from his position, he's probably going to be sitting there, okay, if I have this many running backs gone, of course, I go all the way to the end of the second. I don't know. I think he'll go running back is where I'm at, unless there's somebody he's just really looking at. But I would agree with that. All right, Dwayne with Mayfields and McCoys. He's got Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Mike Evans. Some good keepers there. Dwayne, I'd say receiver. I think he's going to go wide receiver.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think he would. I mean, we haven't really talked about this, and I will spend any kind of time on it. But some people, when they go into the draft, we've seen it where somebody wants to load up on an extra running back. They get that third running back. But I think Dwayne's had usually a pretty strong group of receivers in the past couple of years, so I think he's going to go receiver.
Yeah, I think this year is his first year where he did have 2 wide receivers, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong. correctly, but
I think you're right.
This is his first draft without Ty. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All
right, let's Richard. Let's go to John Mack.
Yeah, John Mack. It's obvious that he needs a running back. I think that's what he's going to go for. He could surprise us, but that's what I think he's going to go for. And I'll say to him that if he wants to talk to me, he's more than welcome to.
I don't know what that's about. No, he will. John Mack typically has gone running back heavy in the draft, and now that he doesn't have any running back as keeper, I'm sure he's going to really attack the running back position. So moving on to Aaron, Matt Hatters. So he doesn't have the first round, so he'll come back and he has 2 picks in the second round, and he's got Aaron Jones, Michael Thomas, and DeAndre Hopkins as keepers. I think he's going running back. I think he's going to go.
I wouldn't be surprised in the second round if he doesn't go quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although he has 2 picks.
I kind of have a name written down for him that I think he's going to take. And I think it's going to be in the second round if somebody doesn't pick it before him.
No, that's probably that. No, I don't think that's far off. Aaron can do that. He has 2 picks in the second round, so he can't afford kind of to do that too if he wants. So, yeah. All right, moving on to Daryl. Tuna Bite Lives Matter.
Daryl, it's another kind of obvious one, I think, and that he needs a running back. He was able to keep a tight end, a good tight end, and 2 wide receivers, so he's pretty much set on the receiving game for a pretty well set on the receiving game, and he really needs a running back. So obviously, like you said before, he's before me, and so I think we both agree that he's going to get one of those running backs that are on the top, either Kenyon Drake or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it just depends on what Donald wants out of those 2. If Donald even wants him, because maybe Donald goes a different direction too. I don't want to.
Well, and Donald's got
that, but Donald can very easily go wide receiver on us and surprise us, but
true.
We'll see. Those two Donald expect to be running backs.
Yeah, Donald has the luxury. He's got 2 first-round picks, so I would expect he'll probably go running back and receiver in the first round. Maybe he could change it up and go receiver first and then running back. I mean, I'm pretty confident he'll go running back and receiver in the first round. With his picks, and then Bruce with 2 receivers, Mahomes, Ridley, and Hill. So he's actually Richard. I was wrong. So it wasn't just 2 teams, 3 teams that did not have any running back keepers.
Yeah.
So I think those 3 teams, that goes without saying, they're going to hit the running back position. Now, some people have done this where maybe they'll say, "Hey, there's a great receiver. I'm going to throw him on my flex and go heavy." With that. But regardless of how they do the first 3 or 4 rounds, we know those 3 teams are gonna hit the running back position. So yeah, running back. That's where I mean, Bruce is gonna hit a running back. I feel pretty confident that he'll go running back with his first pick.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah. All right, Richard. Well, that's kind of course, we never know. We know there could be a quarterback or tight end that comes in. I mean, maybe Aaron's feeling that defense, and he says, "I want that defense in the first round." Makes a bold statement. I mean,
I'm telling you, man, you should get 2 quarterbacks. Really mess it up.
really mess it up. The thing is, though, it's like we say because then I got to trade Richard, and then it's like you get
to feel it out for a couple of weeks, see who pans out, then you can trade it easy.
Oh gosh, yeah. Everybody'd be so mad at me, and then they're like, "I'm not going to trade with you all." And I'm looking at my roster, going, "Man, I got all these quarterbacks, and I need help at other positions." So,
just wait 3 weeks. It's all I ask. 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You're in my division. Let's wait till division's done, and then you can trade.
That's true. That's true. We are in the same division, so that does make it interesting. All right, so Richard, let's close off today. So I know we're getting to that hour mark, and I know Daryl right now is probably just getting really irritated if he's still with us. So, yeah. So we'll make sure we get there. But I guess let's let's hit with some bold predictions that
Bold
maybe you and I, yeah, like some of our bold predictions maybe for this draft overall.
I think that Josh is gonna draft at least 4 quarterbacks. At least.
At least 4 quarterbacks. Okay, I can get there to 3 because that's typically what he does. But
Yeah.
wow, at least 4.
Yeah,
wow.
There's so many good quarterbacks, so you gotta get that last one.
Okay, and one of my bold predictions is that you draft 2 kickers because we know how much you love the kickers position.
Oh,
Richard's not going to draft any kickers. He's like, I'll just pick somebody up before the first game.
If I can do it, I'm not going to draft a kicker.
Gosh. Okay, let's
get rid
see.
of him somehow.
All right, let's see some other bold predictions here.
I think. Let's see. I think that John Mack is going to have more
running backs than what?
More Cowboys than Eagles on his team.
Ooh, wow. I wonder how John Mack feels about that. More Cowboys than Eagles. Okay. And I am going to
Dallas. How about that?
All right, one of my bold predictions actually has to do with John Mack. Sorry, John, we're not trying to pick on you. We're just trying to, it just came to mind. My bold prediction is that John Mack will draft the most running backs in the draft.
Ooh, that's because he typically does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he typically does. Jonathan did too. I think Jonathan, I don't know if it was last year, Jonathan drafted a bunch. So I think John Mack's going to draft a lot of running backs this year, like the most. So yeah, 6 or 7. 6 or 7, I think, is where he's going to be at, running backs.
I think John Mack was John Mack stacked with running back, right?
Yeah. No, my prediction, he's going to have 6 or 7 running backs, and it's going to be the most.
I think a bold prediction, we're going to stop the draft twice because of somebody claiming that something went wrong. They didn't draft who it drafted.
Okay.
And it might be me on one of them because I'll be extremely tired at 3 a.m.
Drink the coffee, Richard. Okay. Bold predictions. I know I've got one other bold prediction, Richard, that at least one other. Of course, we've gotten so far in the show that I think I've kind of lost a little bit of my train of thought here. Okay. My bold prediction is that okay, the last person to draft a quarterback. I don't know if this is really bold prediction. This is just going to be what I think, because it's really not bold, because it's usually the guys who wait. But I think the last person to wait on a quarterback is going to be Nathan. That's what I think. I think he is. I know, like we talked, me, you, Dwayne, I think has done it. But I guess not really a bold prediction, but that's just what I'm predicting. That Nathan's going to be the last person to draft a quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my predictions.
I see that as a challenge more than anything else, but that's just me.
Yeah, Nathan, do the opposite. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really care. I
got him where you want him.
That's right.
How many trades do you think we're going to have this season? That's a bold prediction. Not just the draft, but this season.
Oh, for the season.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's
more. How about I'll give you a number and you say higher or more or less.
Okay.
10.
Say more.
More. Ooh, interesting.
That's the optimist in me, Richard. I'm always hoping we get a lot of trades. So
Yeah.
I don't even think we had like 8 last year.
How many of those how many of these more than 10 are going to have the name Thayer in there?
Oh, that is true. Actually, I didn't remember how many Richard. I mean, Aaron traded like 5 times, I think, alone, maybe 6. I don't know.
In 1 week, I think.
Yeah. So I am going more than 10. I'm going to say over 10.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Over 10. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say for. Okay. Oh, here's another one. Well, you know what? I should save it. I think I should save it. I'll save some of my other, because this doesn't have to do with the draft. And, we've gone an hour now. And so Daryl's probably really upset. And,
All right. For Daryl, we should probably leave then.
Yeah, we probably should. Okay. Tuna Bites. I'm sorry. We had the little hiccup. And, so that just happens when you're doing the live thing. So, but anyways, we like the format. We're excited about the draft, and so we're looking. Hopefully, we can get some of you guys to get on with StreamYard and get together. It's always fun, and of course, we're going to have an after draft kind of special thing with Tuna Buzz. And so, Richard, any parting words?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the draft, even though it's going to be really early in the morning. My wife thinks I'm crazy. And I have to go to work, back to work from vacation. It's gonna be. I think I'm gonna do some auto picks for the draft. I think I'm gonna fall asleep. You're welcome to yell at me during the stream, but hopefully we can be a quick draft too, and I won't have to lose too much sleep. So we'll see.
That's okay. All right, that's true. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the draft. And we listen, guys. We only do this once a year, so it's tradition, and 19 years and counting. So yeah, I hope you guys are going to be excited, even if we're at different locations, so we can get on with this and have a good time and get upset about who drafted who in front of who, and how it changes the draft. That's always the fun part. And then of course there's always the head scratchers, and so it's gonna be fun. So looking forward to it, Tuna Bites. So anyways, hopefully thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you Sunday at the draft.
Right. Sounds good. Bonsoir.
Boondogglers.